Eastern Time. It's LinkedIn Live Hour of Empower. I'm honored today to have Dr. Constance Leyland with us. I've talked at length, and there is so much commonality and alignment with what we're trying to achieve here and what Dr. Constance can bring to the table. Naturally, we depend on chat to direct us. We're here for you. Without you, there's no show or us. So, whatever we can do to get you some valuable takeaways from today, we're here for you. The word of the day is relevancy. It seems like when we have a key word, it always centers everybody. Before I turn it over, I just want to say that Mike's here. Uh, Great to see you. Barshish is here, a regular lately. Leslie's just great. Actually, is going to be here, I believe, Monday. Mike comes back with she's brilliant as she is gorgeous and friendly. Yeah, I mean, when you get to meet Dr. Constance, you're gonna believe this is a lucky day for you. Paul's here. Paul's here almost every day. Hello, grateful to be here to support and learn from you today. And Christine's here. Thank you for coming. It's so nice to have some new faces. And Saya's here, and she's just great. And I would advocate reach out to the people who are here, who are commenting. They're already vetted. They're great people to know and connect with. Another new name. Good morning with a heart. Can't beat that. Brett's here. Brett's actually going to be here, I believe, Wednesday on the show. I love everybody in the audience to get a chance to show up on the show. So with that, what do you have to share with us today? Why don't you introduce yourself and what your thoughts on relevancy and what we're doing?
My heart is like so big. First of all, happy Mother's Day weekend to all the mamas out there. My babies are still sleeping upstairs, so we're good. All the people from the hounds that I see is here, and some of my friends that I've invited. So Mike, Sia, Christian, Paul, obviously. Who else is in here? Brett and I know from last year event. And Paul is here. Leslie is here. So thank you so much for being here today, guys. Time to level up. That's right. That's my hashtag, guys. Level up or level up with Dr. Leland. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. I can't believe I haven't known you for this long. I think I was living under the rock for sure. And I know you've been doing this for a while. So I totally appreciate your time today, putting it in. Relevancy to me, well, before I introduce the word, I wanted you guys to invite on Level Up Academy. I have a movement that I want to do, and it has something to do with what we're talking today, which is level up. And that means it could be hydrating yourself, it could be changing your mindset from 5 minutes ago. It could be waking up. It could be going back to exercise. It could be eating healthy, whatever it is. You don't even have to tell me. Just level up for yourself. Okay. And we're leveling up today. So the key word is relevancy. I believe relevancy is plays a significant role in social media and platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, right? It determines our content really. Like you kind of play around with it and also the overall experience of not only yourself but your connection. And I think of relevancy in social media because we are in social media and the various algorithms and techniques to analyze user behavior out there, like whether your interests, your preferences, or how you deliver it. And the way I see relevancy in the human connection that I have with all of these friends that are here are I'm a professor, guys, so I'm gonna micro learn it. Okay, I see it in 5 categories, and please put your opinion in there, ask questions, but in 5 elements. The first one is authenticity. You hear this word like I don't know how many times per day, but being genuine and transparent in sharing your professional experiences fosters meaningful connections, also resonates with others through your experiences. So connect through authentic content. And that's why I love about your show, Donald. because you bring people that have experiences, that have transferable experiences, and it's not just like a chit chat all day, but more of like what kind of added value conversations can we have, right? What are your thoughts on that when it comes to authenticity?
Well, that's a great question. It just happens that Charles just joined us. Charles is from Hong Kong. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Good.
Welcome, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, Charles has been a busy guy, very big supporter. And, a reason why I thought Charles would be a good addition is because he's in the education field pretty heavily. And I don't know if you know Dr. Constance, Charles, but she's a professor. And I can't believe the achievements, the accomplishments, the degree she's been able to receive and still do everything else she does. So, anyways, quick introduction. We're talking about relevancy and authenticity. Uh, I think that was a uh, great insights you shared about that. And relevancy comes down to value, right? How much value do you provide is how relevant you are to the people around you. Too many people are looking for relevancy in others. Well, they should be really focusing on being more relevant to themselves first and then sharing that. Uh, so, real quick, Charles, if you like, a quick 1, 2, 3 introduction and your thoughts on the subject and why you wanted to be here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Don. It's great to be back after a little bit of a break for the last several weeks. I'm calling in from Hong Kong. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. I work for English Schools Foundation. We run 22 schools in Hong Kong from kindergarten to secondary school. I've got about 19,000 students, 3,000 staff. And I'm also an executive coach and leadership coach as well. And I just thought that the whole concept of relevancy was fascinating and was really excited to be able to jump into this with you and with Constance. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, great. Great. Well, let's not forget about the audience. So we've got Tapas here, who's been here about every day. Jody Lamb, who actually Mike reached out to me last night and said Jody'd be a great guest to have on the show. So looking forward to that. Steven's here. So great to have you. Well, if he's here, Nicole's here. Nicole has got a wonderful story. She was on the show. She's got a #1 international bestseller. It's great to applaud people taking the action after getting the motivation and mindset and some knowledge as far as skill set and achieving so many wonderful things. And this community is really ratcheting up together. And the smarter, the happier everybody is, the stronger the group becomes. So with that, Dr. Constance, what's your thoughts now?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I love hearing other people creating great minds out there, especially in Hong Kong. So good job. We definitely need to connect. I used to do K-12 teaching for VIP Kid in China. And I would teach at 3 a.m. with TPR, total physical response, because they couldn't speak English and my hands were all over the place at 3 a.m. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm teaching." She's like, "A 4-year-old with that much energy at 3?" I'm like, "I had 3 cups of coffee. I'm good." But for me, continuing the conversation on the 5 elements I was looking at, as far as authenticity, I wanted to bring attention right here on audience understanding, right? Because sometimes we're so caught up on our process as an individual here on the platform. I'm talking about this, I'm talking about this, and you're actually de-alienating the rest of the people who don't know what you're talking about. So if you really want to not stay relevant, but have a servant leadership heart, that's how I stand it. Is serving others actually creates a better community to level up, right? And audience understanding is my second element. So if you understand the needs and interests of your target audience, and to me, being inclusive is the key as well. I'm in education, but you won't hear me lecture all day long about education because not everybody's into it, right? In fact, Mike will tell you on my podcast, I have a lot of degrees, but I don't use it. That's what he says. I happen to use all four of mine. It will be five soon, I think, if the university let me in again for another master's. But understanding your audience, what kind of relevant solutions or valuable insights that truly makes a difference in their professional lives, and be having that servant heart leadership. What are your thoughts?
Charles, you want to take a swing at that?
Well, I think that in today's day and age, that style of leadership is absolutely the way to go. In fact, I was just earlier today, Don and Constance, I was on LinkedIn Live with Erica, and we were talking about love as a leadership skill, and love as a leadership skill, practicing professional intimacy. If we're talking about the context of the workplace, then is a key component of servant leadership. And lots and lots of studies have been done on servant leadership. We don't hear about them all the time because servant leaders are more humble leaders, obviously. And so they're not out there shouting from the rooftops about how great they are. It's the more tyrannical, non-servant leaders, the narcissistic leaders, or the tend to be more narcissistic leaders, who are the people shouting from the rooftops. The servant leaders are more quiet, but actually when you look at the results, and people, Jim Collins in his book Good to Great, I think he's got a significant sample of results, but there's lots of other examples of servant leadership research. The other interesting thing is that many militaries around the world have rolled out servant leadership models, and some of them have been unsuccessful, but there are some that have been very, very successful in rolling out servant leadership models. Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, is all about servant leadership, about leaders looking after their people. And I think that this is a critical element, like Constance says, of relevancy when we're talking about it.
Well, and I think relevancy is something you have to evaluate on a regular basis, maybe even a daily basis, because, the key, I believe, to servant leadership is leaving the log pile bigger than you found it, with whoever you found it with. Because if people are highly capable, they can do more than 50-50, right? They can create opportunities for others because their cup may be overfilling already. And it's really the medium that we can use now that we never had before, where 50 people from around the world could meet at the exact same moment for most of the right intentions and with the interest in bettering oneself and everybody around them, right? That was never possible before. And that's why I do this 7 days a week. I can't learn fast enough. If they had 7 more days in a week, I'd do that 7 more times. But it's the joy of being with people, helping people, and seeing the people transform from the beginning of a show to the end of the show. Where now their mind is a little bit more prone to question, evaluate, reflect. But most important, I think, is relevancy is celebration, right? When you do something in such a great amount that people really, really do see a difference. And now there's a path. And not only is there a path, there's a community that will help you walk with them together down that path. And that cannot be overappreciated. Constance?
Okay, my turn. We're on the wheel. I'm sorry, I'm driving the conversation. I'm like, I have 5 elements. I can't help myself, okay? I'm a structured person in my brain, literally. I think it's because I've been teaching for 10 years. But Charles, thank you so much for mentioning the military. I have a lot of military students in one of the university I work for. I usually work 3 to 4 universities at a time, but now I'm a full-time teacher and also do part-time assistant dean and a director and something else. But I doubled down after COVID on education. I used to do commercial finance analyst, but I also teach on the side. But what I've learned for teaching and also watching LinkedIn for, I would say the last 3 to 4 months, like this year, is that relevancy and servant leadership goes hand in hand, but also consistency. People are watching you. The first time they see you, they like what you say, they like your content, and then they're like, huh, is that like a one hit wonder? Like the Macarena, right? It's just one hit wonder, right? Consistency is my third element I want to talk about. It's regularly sharing high quality content helps build a loyal and followers and maintains interest over time, and engaging consistently to stay visible and make a lasting impact. I'm not saying randomly post every hour. I'm saying consistently providing your message that aligns with you. Don't be like somebody else that you see that you like, because you're never going to be consistent in that message. That's not who you are. So find your inner peace and find alignment with whatever that who you are as a person, and reflect. Even if you stay away from social media for a hot minute and really go down to the path of who am I? What do you people want to see me as? Not like the facade of who you are, but who really you are, because people are not stupid. They're going to watch you and see if you're really consistent, and you stay out of relevancy if you're not who you are, because it's going to show your message. So consistency is my third element. How about you, Charles?
Yeah, I think that consistency is important to be distinguished from frequency, because I think with consistency, you have there's an element of quality in that word. So it's different than frequency. Frequency is just doing it over and over again. And I think that's when people will see you, for example, on LinkedIn and might think, okay, that's a one hit wonder that's getting replayed, replayed, replayed. Whereas with consistency, you're bringing in an element of that word to me conjures up more an element of quality, which I think is important, part of the relevancy conversation. And I think that relevancy and servant leader, they both emphasize the importance of meeting the needs of others. And that word consistency helps to connect people. It kind of makes it feel like people are a little bit more connected to people that may be watching or following the message of a servant leader, for example. Another way that I would describe that or contrast consistency and frequency is a phrase that I've used before, and Don, you might remember this, and that is that the future will reward clarity and punish certainty. So we could probably take that same phrase and say that when it comes to relevancy, the future will reward consistency and punish frequency.
Well, I think that's a great way of looking at it. The beauty of having words is there's so many different takeaways or perspectives of a word, and it's all conditional where how it's used with other words that it's used, how it's verbalized or written. And what that gives you is so many different ways to apply something. But I agree, consistency creates more relevancy because it creates familiarity, right? When you get to see something and see somebody over and over again, and you're right, time will either expose you or promote you, and you can't hide from the camera that you're on. So it does make people a little more honest, possibly. But more importantly, it makes people be seen, be heard from people who are there to encourage and support them. And most people have had pot luck when it comes to who's around them to encourage and support them. And I think that's what this is so beneficial. And that's why I'm trying to cross fertilize groups, right? Where people move from everywhere to everywhere. Because what I see is when anybody from a significant group like the Hounds comes on, all the Hounds follow. right? And the same thing when I'm on somebody's show, and actually I'm going to be honored and privileged to be on Constance's show this Wednesday. And, you know, Mike's been here, Rocky's been here. Everybody that's in the audience is welcome to be here, you know, and I'm reaching out to people all the time because I don't believe there should be a division between the stage and the audience. I believe we're three among the 50 with the audience as opposed to above it, because that way we can enjoy the audience and what's happening, you know. So, and that's where relevancy comes in, is when can you get beyond yourself and then not only be relevant to somebody, but help them be relevant to themselves and to others. And this is a great runway to get on, because I know once people get on LinkedIn Lives, they feel more relevant, right? They've done something maybe they were, intimidated by or concerned about. But the beauty of the community is some people actually need a helping hand, need an invitation. You can't just say, come here. You know, if they could, they'd probably already be there. And by doing it every day, you can do little things every day. You don't have to accomplish major things. You can unfold as you're comfortable, because once everybody gets honest, and I think that's the foundation to relevancy, it allows other people to get more honest. And now you got something real. And what I'm moving towards now is people have really improved their mindset. They've gotten all kinds of different ways of thinking, feeling, and reacting and acting to things. And now they're learning best practices. Now it's application. How much of the new you or the optimized you can you take out there, you know, and do simple things like sharing, like commenting, like Paul probably referred 7 people to me in the last 2 weeks. And he's doing everybody a favor by doing that. You know, it's a win-win-win. And I think it's really now about kicking it into activity. But now I see little circles forming within bigger circles, and those groups working together to help each other. So I think peer-to-peer is the way of the future, and it's working for all of us. So must be Charles's turn.
Sure. You know, I think that it's important to understand that relevancy is not necessarily, it's not a new concept. I think it's a new word that is helpful because it is not something that's used very often. So it's a bit of a disruptive word. But the key aspect of relevance is the fact that it is referencing the idea of applicability. And what we're seeing in education more and more these days is curriculum which is trying to be more applicable and more applied for people. So if I just kind of look at Canada, there's 2 universities in Canada which have gone the route of vocational colleges and transformed into universities. And in their DNA is this idea of being more of an applied learning. And the benefit of that is that it's more applicable for the students. They're able to put their hands around it more and understand it more and apply it. Right now, what we're running in my organization is the IB curriculum predominantly, but in the 12 years I've been in the organization, we've seen a rise of BTEC, and we've also seen the IBCP, which is an application of IB. It's more of like a vocational type of curriculum, and students have been very, very, very successful with this program. A lot of parents might be worried that this type of curriculum is closing doors, but it's actually not. If the students really apply themselves in these areas, it's very relevant. That's the key thing here. The curriculum is relevant to what their aspirations are in the future. So just many, many areas where this word is popping up, and the word relevancy has relevance.
For sure. Constance?
Okay. I love it. I love that you guys are focusing on that. And my mind was like focusing on what you're saying because I love it. That's what from teaching for K to 12 and also higher education. I see that a lot of students and a lot of the curriculum that we developed are more into theory. A lot of it is theory. That's why I got my doctorate in DBA, because it's more theory and practice. It is a disservice to people who doesn't know going to all these universities but doesn't know how to apply those skills and put it together. And so that's what I provide is transferable skills. Let's take your current skills now, and if you're especially if you just graduated or you've been off work and you wanted to transition to another career, and take all those skills, make it relevant, and when you transition. So, my fourth element, as I promised at the very beginning, five elements, is lifelong learning, right? Continuous learning and staying updated on your industry trends, best practices. This allows you to provide an up to date, relevant, valuable content that professionals find informative, right? Through your own journey, through your own stories, like what Paul always says. And the age that we are now, we are so abundant with information. And I love that technology that you used on actually provides relevant conversation, right? But not only that, but it's informative. It provides value because you're getting people here who worked in the industry and provide of what are their thoughts on it. So for me, relevancy is for both personal and professional development to stay current, right? To stay relevant. I'm not saying be a narcissistic person and post all the time. Like Charles said, it's not the frequency, it's the quality that you provide. And for me, don't be somebody else, be yourself. To stay relevant, communicate what you are trying to say and what your mission is. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think you nailed it with what you just shared, and it's knowing you can be more relevant also, that there's an opportunity there. And the relevancy, like I say, is to yourself, right? When you stay relevant to you, when the next day could be the mystery that unlocks whatever it is your intention is, or what you visualize, uh, you're a winner already. Why not start with a full tank and then go out and share it with others? Because there's a whole population that, if they knew programs like this and like Constance's and Mike's were available, there's 900 million people here. If only 1% said, yeah, I could use an honest, high integrity, collaborative group that meets all the time. And that's why I'm promoting everybody else's show. I mean, Constance, share your show, because there's never enough of this right now for as many people who could benefit from it. So what do you do, Constance, that other people could take better advantage of?
Among other things, okay, so I was a dean at university. I'll try to make it 5 minutes and stay relevant in this conversation. But I was a dean at university, and I had problem with my faculty and my students. They were just like exiting right before my eyes. I'm like, graduation rate, and making sure that I have retention. And I would start panicking. And I had actually a girlfriend from Hong Kong, Charles. She's a CFO, and she's like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you so stressed out?" I'm like, my hair was up. I'm like, "I don't understand. I'm bleeding." And she's like, "Girl, you got this." I'm like, "No, I don't got this. I'm serious." And she's like, "No, what is the problem?" So I told her the problem. She's like, "Why don't you do like a podcast so they just listen to each other?" And I'm like, I don't know anything about audio, video with all this button. And she knows my mantra: go big or go home. That's how I roll on any project. I don't care what it is, go big, CJ, or go home. And so I went to go look for this. I'm like, I'm just so intimidated. I went to YouTube University. Okay, you could level up through YouTube. Spent like 80 hours trying to figure out the best tech engineers out there. And I'm like, I don't know. And my husband's like, what do you want? And he's in tech and he won't help me. He's like, you gotta figure it out. So I bought a Roadcaster, figure it out, started a podcast for about a year now. And Don and I actually were just talking about this, about, relevancy conversation before we came in. And I'm like, Don, what's your stats on, how many continents? So he was telling me where the people are coming from. I'm fortunate enough that I could see my stats, and I'm on 6 continents. 70 countries and nations. What? But the penguin, I need Antarctica people. Okay. I'm still looking for it. If there's anybody in Antarctica would like to listen, please tell me. But the most important thing really is that in my podcast, I showcase people just like this, but I focus more on their message. I focus more on what added value conversations can they have. I'm all about elevating people and leveling them up, but I also, just like you, wanted to have that conversation. Okay, when you fell, how did you dust off yourself? What are the things that you do? Because it's through stories, it's through adversity that we can actually extrapolate those information and learn from, right? Because these are real people going through real problems. And that's how I save a life, by the way, on my episode 2, on my podcast. When someone emailed me, she wanted to end her life. And podcast number 2 from my student, it wasn't about me, it's about my student who recently got divorced, and she went back to school and she felt good about herself. And she was always told, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're dumb, you're, all this negative things. And she said, once I went back to school, I felt good about myself, I learned something about myself. And so that's what I do in my podcast. I showcase people who have mad skills and mad stories, because we only see the outcome, like Dr. Constance Leyland. I'm beyond my title. I'm me. I have a big heart. I'm a servant leader, and I want you to level up. I don't care who you are. That's my movement. What did you do better 5 minutes ago? Being here. Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there, and Father's Day to all fathers in June. I'm ahead a little bit, but that's what my show is all about.
That's great, Constance. I love the way you're connecting with people and obviously making it relevant. Some people might be asking, what do they do to, what are some sort of tactical things that they can do to create relevance? Obviously, things off the top of my head would be, conduct research, analyze data, listen to feedback, and observe behavior and stuff like that. Put yourself in other people's shoes. But one idea that I've latched onto lately that I think can really help people to create relevance for themselves and to connect into the people that matter in their lives is perspective taking, which is the ability, so I'll say that again, perspective taking. And perspective taking is the ability to understand and consider other people's thoughts, feelings, and views of the world. And it really requires taking a step back and thinking about what you want to know about how other people view you or view a particular situation in a fairly deep and understanding way. And it's also, a really helpful social skill. So some people might think about perspective taking, if you research it or read some articles about it, you might think, well, that sounds like common sense. But the way it is an important social skill to be able to connect with other individuals in positive ways and to obtain a little bit more than feedback. It's like that distinction between frequency and consistency. There's a difference between feedback and perspective taking. It's really all about understanding how you are showing up or how an issue is showing up. So perspective taking is not always about the individual and getting feedback. It could also be about taking perspective on a particular issue that's relevant, and requires understanding different perspectives, requires pulling in empathetic skills, active listening, and that type of thing. So that's something for people to take on board, is this concept of perspective taking. Back to you, Don.
You're on mute or something. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you dropped out for a minute.
You're right. I didn't want anything to distract anything. But, to your point, relevancy is something that you can also understand from others. When you think you're relevant, when you act relevant, you only know for sure when people share that you are relevant to them. And that's what I think communities like this of interaction really polish you and also optimize the audience, because, in a lot of ways, it's all about redirection. right? If you want to get more relevant, you need to start redirecting more of your thoughts, actions, relationships that will align with keeping you relevant. And by having honest feedback, you know if you're actually achieving it. How many people walk into a room, never knew the people in it, never understood the format, and just decided, here's what everybody needs to know, and that's what makes me relevant. It's a lot easier to buy some vowels before you solve the puzzle, right? And ask questions. And I think that's the key to being proactive is curiosity, which then builds relevancy. Is I'm just curious, I'm just interested. Can you share something? Or I'm kind of, I could use your help. Anytime you can say to somebody, I really can use your help, and do it in a sincere way, you're going to get the majority of people to help you, you know? So you can buy those vowels just by reaching out, but more importantly, already being plugged into the community. Because I know Leslie's coming on the show, I believe, in a week or so. I've invited so many people, will continue to invite people. And the benefit of having 7 days a week and 2 to 3 slots every day is there's plenty of room, you know? And anytime you're inclusive, anytime you make room, and people like to build together, it's far more superior than being alone. And in this isolated, insulated, hibernated world, to be able to come out of your shell with everybody else when the sun's shining, and when it's not, create the sunshine. Because what I tell everybody, when you're up, these LinkedIn lives need you, right? When you're down, you need them. And if everybody comes either when you're high or low to get balanced, and know you can be here like emergency care every day, and there'll be 20 or 30 people who want you to succeed. You know, I love it when people get a book and it's a hit, people get a new position, people start a business. You know, that's modeling for everybody, because the most relevant thing I think one can look towards is if they can do it, I can do it. And they can even help me do it like they did it, you know, and that gives you a safety net. You know, more people would try if they weren't worried about criticism or judgment or fear of failure. And when you applaud initiative, that's really something that can bring more relevance. Constance?
I saw Mike. You're like, put a smile on me, and I'm like, yes. You mentioned the hounds. I'm part of the hounds, and Mike is our captain on that ship. Okay, and so if you need to know more about what the hounds is all about, you definitely need to talk to Mike Asherbrenner on it. But really, what we are is we created a community full of really vibrant, friendly, authentic, supportive people who supports your post to the point we're so relevant that, including myself, okay, LinkedIn thinks I'm a bot. Literally, I'm not a bot. Okay, I do spend time in here, and I'm like, maybe I need to stay away. But really, we're a group of individuals and professionals that, in our world, we provide value conversations because we're so busy focusing on what we need to do. But for us to stay relevant, we basically create a strategy to ensure that we support each other because we're all busy. We're all working all the time, hustling, right? But at the same time, it would be nice to stay relevant through within your community so you can see that support all the time. But sometimes it's, yes, I do a lot of my things for free because I'm used to that as a teacher, and you're like, CJ, you need to monetize. I'm like, we'll do that later. And you're like, are you rich? I'm like, no, I'm a teacher's salary. What are you talking about? So if you give me free coupons, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Or free anything, I will take it. I have no shame in that game. But here's the thing. For you to stay relevant for me it's reciprocity. And I put that on my thing. It's like sometimes, yes, you give and give and give and give because you have a lot to give, which I've done for a long time. But sometimes I need a little love too. You know what I mean? Like I need those hearts too, guys, right? And that's all I'm saying. Engagement is my fifth element. Is building a strong LinkedIn presence involves actively participating in your discussions, actively doing it here.
responding to comments, right? If you're here right now on Donald's show and you're live, do hashtag live. Do me a favor, show up, hounds, and do hashtag live. Show them you're the hounds, right? Because this is how you stay relevant. People don't see you from the behind the scene, and you're there, right? If you want to stay relevant, you got to engage. No one's going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it for yourself. When you said someone like they created a book and it's out there, Lachelle did that, Mr. Lee did that, Nicole did that as a group. They were on my show. I'm trying to promote them, and I'm so proud of them, right? And don't just celebrate all the big wins, celebrate all the mini wins, right? Celebrate all those people that even though you might not like be friends with them, but they are really doing a great job. Yes, celebrate them, because that little hashtag, that little heart that you did might make their day, right? And let's foster connections and amplify your impact together, just like what Don is trying to do here. I can't do every day, so hats off to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. That was just wonderful and uplifting. And it's the little things, you're right, done right over time that compound, and more importantly, know, however you're playing, you're in the game now. You're in the game with people who want to play aggressive in a good way, want to reach higher heights because they can now. The door's open, the bridge is down. Now it's time to really burst through it with everything that you've been holding back with, hoping someone will find you. Find yourself. You won't need that other person who isn't showing up the way you want. And why do you need permission? Why do you need to go through another layer to be exactly who you want to be? And with this platform, if you share who you are, and there's so many wonderful people that I've gotten to know, like I had my first long call with Dean this week, and just an amazing individual, got a tremendous story. I'm looking forward to having him on the show, because every story should be heard. Every story is someone's life. Every story is important, right? And when it's heard and appreciated and respected and encouraged, all of a sudden that voice gets stronger. That desire to get in front of the spotlight gets a little bit more comfortable. And then all of a sudden you've got power. You've got the power to influence. You've got the power to impress. Because, if someone needs something and they're not getting it fast enough, get on LinkedIn Live at 9 and keep talking until lunch, and then go back and talk for another 4 hours about yourself, what you're into, who you are. Not, I need a job, I need money, but just share who you are long enough and put yourself to work until someone else does. And maybe you'll find out you're the person you were always looking for that finally found you. So, I think that's what relevancy is reinvention. And it's constant. You can never be too relevant. Let's just say that, because the next moment, things will change. It's a dynamic world. And that's another thing about being plugged in with so many wonderful people, is they'll fill you in when you weren't there, right? They'll help you out, and they'll give you freedom and license to be everything you can be. I see too many groups that close the doors when everybody's in and nobody gets out, right? And I'm like, open up all the doors, let people fly. There's so many of them, there's not enough room for everybody anyways. And as people get better and stronger, it's no different than kids. You give them more room, they grow a little bit better, and people come back, and that's so important. And they come back with success stories and testimonials. And, that's what makes it believable, is when someone remembered somebody 6 months ago and all of a sudden they see him today, and it's a miracle. So, Charles, what's your thoughts? We're on a roll here.
Well, I actually have a question for Constance. Constance, what happened that LinkedIn thought that you were a bot?
I get kicked out, and I was in Dawn's show. This week has been horrible. First of all, I want to mention my sister. I don't have a sister. I'm an only child, but everyone who brings my heart to that oop oop feeling, I will definitely shout you out. Jody, glad you're here. So Samantha Marikit and she's in the Philippines and I'm Filipino. I'm Chinese Filipino. So we're like talking and we're always tagging each other because I can't see people think anything. So she tagged me and LinkedIn literally kicks me out every click I do and will not let me. Like right now, I was on Dawn's show yesterday. I couldn't comment. And I had like a huge paragraph. I wanted to cry. I'm like, that was such a good thought. What happened? And I wrote LinkedIn and I was cursing in my house. And my husband's like, what's wrong with you? Why is your student? What is happening? Because I had a live lecture at the same time, but they were on quiz mode. And I'm like, LinkedIn drives me crazy. And he goes, you're just creating wrinkles for yourself. They're run by bots. Like, you just need to stop. And I'm like, how do you finish this algorithm business? And he's like, you can't. Just like saying, how do I stop paying the IRS? It doesn't work. Like, you have to do it. And I'm like, so what do I do? What do I do? And he's like, calm down and watch a movie with me. But literally, if you see your friend right now on LinkedIn that's not there and they're active, LinkedIn is doing something for sure. They're cleaning up because I lost 200 followers on Tuesday, like just like that. And I'm not really, I don't really care for quantity. I'm more quality. I would rather have small groups, but groups that care about what I'm talking about, and my mission to level up the world. I could have 100,000, but only 2 people, stay relevant in my conversation. It wouldn't make an impact, right? So yes, and I also could hear Paul's voice in my head. You're like, impact, impact. So I think in order for you to also stay relevant is you have to be on other people's show, just like Dawn, because their network is separate from your network. And keep in mind that if you're too busy on LinkedIn, LinkedIn might think you're a bot. So if you have a friend who's missing, they're not missing. LinkedIn just cut them off. Come back, people. Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. It's interesting because actually, this week I actually had LinkedIn take down a post of mine, and they sent me a message. Okay, we've taken down this post because it's in violation of our community guidelines. And I went through the guidelines with a fine-tooth comb, and I was like, "What did I do wrong?" And I talked to some of my colleagues at work who are also, very much involved in LinkedIn, and they said, "Well, I don't know. We can't really figure that out." So we actually have a very good in my business. My company has a very good relationship with LinkedIn. So I'm going to talk to them this week and find out. Okay, can you guys give me some like really specific feedback on what I did wrong? Because that didn't feel very comfortable. Not very happy with that. Um, uh, but what it did make me think of, and as you were speaking, Constance, it kind of about the hounds, it resonated a little bit with me that relevancy is not just about being up to date, but it's also about being ahead of the curve. And there were many, I think about what happened. Okay, what happened was LinkedIn took down your post. And then I had a whole bunch of different reactions to that. And one reaction could be, oh, I did something wrong, I'm bad. But the other reaction could be, okay, maybe I touched a nerve because maybe that post was a little bit ahead of the curve and they didn't quite like that, or it's outside the norm, it's outside the comfort zone. And so that kind of whatever, touched a nerve with whatever the LinkedIn algorithms or somebody, and that post ended up coming down. So I think it's an important lesson for us to remind ourselves that when we are pushing the envelope, when we are getting outside of our comfort zone, and we're testing the boundaries of relevancy, we're actually might be creating relevancy with people that we're connecting with, but at the same time, for other individuals, we might be creating an uncomfortable zone that people might not be that happy with. But at the same time, that's a good thermometer for us to think to ourselves, you know what? That's not so bad. Maybe I was on point with that. Maybe it needs a little bit of finessing so that doesn't happen again. But at the same time, it's a bit of perspective taking that maybe I was on the right track in terms of intercepting the frontier and pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. And when you walk into LinkedIn, they don't give you a roadmap and tell you how to do it or what not to do. And usually you're over the limit when you found out too late to do anything about it. So, it's always going to be a balance and I believe there's a movement to get rid of connections on LinkedIn that aren't people, because I pick up 15 or 20 followers a day and I only pick up 2 net. So it seems like every day I'm picking up 15 and they're getting rid of 12, which if they're not real, you don't want them anyways. And the other thing about relevancy, especially as it relates to your connections, is the only connections that really matter are the people that I've gotten to meet and better relate to, relating to LinkedIn Live, right? The people who were back in the posting, commenting, liking days are still doing the wink, wink, nod, nod. You're okay, I'm okay, good to see you, see you tomorrow. But it's really planting, cultivating, and going back to planting and cultivating. More connections, more conversations, no harvest. And that's why, unless you apply what you're learning, and the only way to really learn is to apply what you think you know to find out what really does work and resonate. My first LinkedIn Live was 8 minutes by myself with no audience, right? And I knew it. I knew I'm performing to nobody, but I had to start that one foot in front of another. And I trusted that I would learn more and meet more people along the way that would make it possible. And I think when you grow with relevancy and it's organic and it's community based and it's good intended, because when Constance is talking about where her reach is, the beauty of a show like ours and Mike's is that it has a passport to go anywhere, because it is a positive, optimistic, encouraging, and no one has a problem with that. No one has a problem with people feeling happier, getting better together on a continuous basis. And, that's why, we're talking to educators here. Expand your curriculum, expand your teachers, expand your input of other people, because you can be so much bigger and better when you bridge gaps, when you build relationships. And you can do it over time, because if you're doing it with enough people, you can let everything resonate and blossom to its natural state. Too many people try to force, or they relate activities to their condition that has no relationship to the activity. I remember being in retail and people would say, hey, I'm going to open up another store and it'll make more money, that'll get us profitable. And I used to say, if you can't do it with 7 stores, what's 8 going to do for you? Right? I mean, so, and that was the funny thing about the connection thing is I remember I was on a mad trip to get to 25,000 connections, and I did it like in 4 months. And somebody wrote me and said, I've got 5,000. I can't wait till I get 25,000. I said, well, if you're not doing none with 5, what's 20 more going to do for you? Right? So don't wait for something. Take whatever you have, wherever you're at, whoever you are, and apply it. And then wait for the feedback. Give yourself 5 rejections before you think of a success, and you'll surprise yourself. It'll probably be less. But every time you get one, there's only 20% less to do to get the real one. And at the end of the day, you're the only person who should judge yourself. Nobody should define who you are. Nobody should tell you what you can do or what you can't do. And, if everybody's a work in progress, it's just, adding a little here, adding a little there. What's your thoughts, Charles? Or did I go out of turn?
No, absolutely. No, that's fine. That's great. I mean, I was just listening to you, Don. I was thinking to myself that, relevancy is not just about being in the right place at the right time, but it's also about having a solution to a problem. And it's just really, it's really an interesting word. It's caught me. It's a word that has really, really got me thinking. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on this particular show, because it's not a word that you hear very often, but it is I think that relevancy really is the currency of the digital age, because the digital age has us connect in so quickly with other people. The fashion industry used to have 4 seasons. Now it has 365. I mean, H&M and Zara, they're changing their products very, very, very rapidly, because they're getting real-time feedback on what's moving off the racks and what's not. And if something is not moving off the racks, then it's gone. But it's not about frequency. As Constance has said, it's about consistency, and it's about the value that people are bringing in the moment. How are they connecting the dots in the moment? And it's not just being up to date, but being ahead of the curve. Yeah. What do you think, Constance?
Yes, I have so many thoughts running in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we don't have enough hour for this conversation. What? Okay, I will
We'll
continue
have to
this
have a part two.
conversation. I definitely will want to have you on my show and have this conversation. I have a lot. So here's the thing, the takeaway, because I know we're going to be like done, right? First, I want to bring you back to 5 that elements that I said, okay, when it comes to relevancy. Authenticity matters. Your audience understanding matters. Consistency that we talked about. Lifelong learning. Be open minded. Okay. It's not just what you know, it's not just who you know, but it's what's in your heart to know. Okay. Lifelong learning, and of course, engagement. But for all the managers out there, for all the teachers out there, okay, here's what I have sum up in the 10 years that I've been teaching. I don't know everything. I'm sure somebody out there knows a lot more. But here's the thing, when I give feedback to anybody, first of all, no means next opportunity. So I just want you guys to know that. No in your face, it just means it's not the right time and they're not the right people. It's next opportunity. That's what no means. For providing feedback so that people don't get defensive, there's 2 things. Provide what do you see in that person as their strength, right? Coming from the heart, what is their strength? And instead of saying, you did this bad, how about you word it differently? Areas of opportunities to grow. Charles, you did this bad. Donald, gosh, this is horrible. Or, hey, guys, we have areas of opportunities to grow. What do you think? These are my list. Any thoughts? That's all.
No, I think you did a wonderful job of sharing the 5 points, mingling them in, integrating the conversations and the interactions with the audience. I think Charles really layered on and added fortification to what we're doing. And, what we ultimately accomplished was a very relevant show that can be viewed over and over again. And the other thing about relevancy, and that's what I like about joining groups, anytime 2 circles get together, they both get bigger. But to be relevant, you have to stay fresh. You have to stay current, right? And by bringing in new faces, new voices, new stories, earns people's time and attention, because what we have to remember, for someone to participate here, they gave something else up that they would have done. And hopefully they learn something now, and how to learn, and being educators, that's so important. The ability is typically always there. It's how is it consumed, and then how is it built on itself. So, I love these shows because it gives everybody food for thought, new ways of, hey, I didn't think of that. That's the real wow moment, is I never considered that. And that's why, different stories from different angles, from different situations now give you more of a balanced approach. And now you're melding with the audience. So when you get back with them, you even have a stronger connection. And I think that's the key, is one brick on top of another is going to bring a strong place to everybody. So with that said, final words, Charles, and then I'll give Constance her last words again, and we'll get everybody on their way.
Yeah, thanks, Don. I really love Constance's 5 elements of relevancy. And I want to propose a context for relevancy, because, someone could get wound up in the thinking that okay, I've got this concept of relevancy, and making it bigger and more complicated than it needs to be. So I think that we need to remember that everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler, right? So while that doesn't relate necessarily specifically to relevancy, it really it highlights the importance of finding the right balance between simplicity and complexity. And when we look at then relevancy, it reminds us to focus on what is important and what is useful without oversimplifying or overlooking important details, but not making it too complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think in today's world, people make things very, very complicated. Organizations make things very complicated. Governments make things very complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think we can strive for relevancy in a way that it's meaningful and it's accurate and it's simple. Over to you, Constance.
3 words: read the room. That's what because I teach my kids this because they often not read the room. Like when I'm upset, that's when they actually ask me questions and ask to go out. I'm like, do you not know that I'm upset right now? Like what part of like saying no to you 15 million times you didn't get? So for me, relevancy is like you said, make it simple. I think a lot of people want not necessarily to complicate things, but I think they want to stay relevant by sounding smart, and they use big words because like, oh, I'm spiffy, I'm smart. No, no one can relate to your big words. In fact, let me ask Siri or Google for it, right? Like, what did you just say? And I do like to do that in my classroom once in a while, or to my friends like Sia. I'm like, Sia, what's this? And he's like, dude, I don't know, teach me. I'm like, ooh, teaching moment. But for me, I love what you said. Keep it simple. Keep it simple because your message will go through more people when you keep it simple. And Don, thank you so much for having me here. This is really fun for me. And Charles, nice to meet you. I hope to hear from you soon.
Well, I can't thank you both enough. Definitely, the audience made it all happen again. I can't, Nicole, Dean, Harvey, I mean, Sia, you name it. This is, if you started today on LinkedIn and the only connections you ever made were right here, you would have all you need without the noise and distraction of maybe earlier connections. But what I love is when people leave smiling, laughing, and happy, because that's really a foundation and justification for relevancy. When you say how relevant, I just had a ball, had a wonderful time, couldn't stop laughing. Well, everybody wants that, and to Charles's point, keeping it simple, you can't get any simpler than a happy smile to a stranger. I mean, it's those little things, again, that make a difference in ways you'll never know. And I tell everybody, I'm so proud of all of us for creating what we did today, for all the people here, but more importantly, for all the people we'll never see or know who will continue to get benefit from this. And more importantly, there's so many quality people here that need introduction, right? There's people that need to know some of these people, and more than what they would have if they wouldn't have had the time to take to really get to know people. So with that, rest up. 23 hours from now, we're back again. Can't wait to be on Constance's show. We'll be with Mike this week too. Can't beat it. And like I say, I'm here for everybody. You want to be on the show, you want to Zoom with me, just message me. I'll make it happen. So again, bye for now. Thank you so much.